Hello, this is Maria Williams. In today's video, I am going to unbox my new Sizzix Sidekick and use it for the first time, and I'm going to use it to make some tags with Concord and Ninth's Holiday Cheer Tags stamp set and a few other supplies. To get started on my tag making session, I have already gathered some supplies. First of all, here's the stamp set I'm going to be using, Christmas Cheer Tags stamp set from Concord and Ninth. I've got my Tonic mini trimmer, which is great to keep on your desk. I have some inks. I'm mainly going to be using these Dewdrop inks. They're pigment inks. They're nice and bright, and they don't take too long to dry. I also have some white pigment ink that I ended up not using, and I also have some metallic inks and some cardstocks. These are all from Stampin' Up. I have some basic colors like Real Red and Old Olive, Crumb Cake, black and white, and then I also have some Night of Navy and this Bermuda Bay, which is not a traditional holiday color. I also have this paper sack from Stampin' Up. It's a 6x6 pack called Wood Textures, and as you can see, that's exactly what it is, all different types of wood in different tones, and even some that looks like painted wood that's been distressed. I also wanted a couple of snowflakes, so I have this seasonal layers thinlit set out. A couple of punches, you can buy those in a set. They're from EK Success. I really like this tag punch from Stampin' Up. I've had it for a couple of years. You just put a 2-inch strip piece of cardstock or paper into it and punch your tag. I know it seems like a lot of supplies, but I didn't end up using them all. I just wanted to have plenty of things ready to go. So on to the unboxing of the Sidekick. I have the original one. It comes with the little Sidekick machine, a set of dies and a stamp set, a couple of small embossing folders, some instructions, and the plates that you need. I should have read the instructions before I started using the machine. You'll see why later. So here are the plates, two for die cutting, and the gray one is to use with the embossing folders. And finally, here's the machine. It's a cute little machine. It has a lever on the left side so that you can attach it to your work surface. I attached it to my glass mat that I had sitting on my desk, and as you can see, when I wiggle it pretty hard, it doesn't go anywhere. I used it after I filmed this video to die cut glitter cardstock, and it cut great. It just is a great little machine. Okay, so on to the first tag. I have a 2-inch strip of the Wood Textures paper on my desk, and then I am inking up the special delivery from the North Pole stamp with the Jumbo Java ink. I'm just stamping that, and that'll dry pretty quickly since the paper is fairly absorbent. And then I'm taking the dotted stamp from the stamp set that came with my Sidekick, and I'm going to stamp it with the red ink from this set. I think it's called Red Magic. Yes, Red Magic. And then I'm going to use the die that came with the Sidekick to die cut that out. I'm using a small piece of washi tape that I'm deactivating with my fingers a little bit to hold the die in place, and then I'm just going to put that in between the two green plates and run it through the machine. So I got it all ready to go. I put it in the machine and turned the handle, and absolutely nothing was happening. So I took on my instructions and realized that unlike the Big Shot, you don't crank the handle in a clockwise direction, sort of away from you. You actually crank it, what to me is backwards, so you crank it counterclockwise towards you, and then it works great. I like the way this heart turned out, but decided that a red heart with white accents would be better. So instead of using the white pigment ink that takes a while to dry, I just took my heart punch, punched out the heart, and then used a white gel pen to add some dots. I wanted to add some dimension to the heart, and I knew this would be a problem if I attached it before I punched the tag top. So I went ahead and trimmed the paper down and punched it, And then because this is paper and it's fairly thin, I decided to punch another tag out of red cardstock, and I made sure that it was longer than the paper tag. I attached the two of them together with just some liquid glue, and I didn't do a great job attaching them perfectly lined up, so I ended up trimming down the sides of both tags and also trimming the red tag so that I just got a border that was about a 1/4 inch wide. Then I just took a small dimensional, attached it to the heart, and then attached the heart to the tag, added about 12 inches of ribbon, and the tag was finished. I totally forgot to stamp the to and from on the back of the tag, so I had to improvise later on. The second tag ended up being really simple. I just took some of the Wood Textures paper. I had a couple of pieces that I had cut from a 6x2 strip, so the two pieces were 2 inches by 3 inches, and I just went ahead and cut the tag part, and then I stamped ho 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 on the front, and then remembered to stamp the to and from on the back. And then I took this bag of twine that I got from Home Goods with a gift card. I didn't get anything from my house, but I got a bunch of stamping supplies they had on clearance, and just added some red and white twine to the tag. For the next couple tags, I used the diamond-shaped border die that comes in the stamp set, and I used 3 different colors of ink. I used the 2 greens and the red from the Dewdrop set, and I started out with the dark green on the bottom, and I figured I could possibly get more than one tag out of my set of stamping, so I stamped it a little bit away from the edge of the cardstock I was using. So I started out with Hint of Pesto on the bottom, then stamped with tea leaves, and then with Red Magic. I then took the best gift ever stamp from the stamp set, and I had originally stamped it onto the cardstock directly, but then I decided that I wanted it to stand out a little bit more, so I took some of my crumb cake cardstock, inked the stamp up with the darker green, which is Hint of Pesto, and just directly stamped it on that. And then I used the circle die that came with the Sidekick and run it through the Sidekick. I did have to trim the cardstock down a little bit because, again, it's only 2.5 inches wide, the opening is, so I had to trim my cardstock down a little bit so that it would fit. I trimmed down the white piece of cardstock where I had stamped the borders, and I made the tag about 2 inches wide, and then I attached the sentiment with some dimensionals, and also attached the little heart that I had stamped and die cut earlier that I didn't use. And unfortunately my camera cut out at some point, but basically I just trim the top edges of the tag to form a triangle, and this would be if you don't have a tag punch or you just want to do something different. And then I decided that the top of the tag looked a little bit plain, so I just took I took a small post-it note, tore off a little piece, kind of sort of in a circular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect because the most that would touch my cardstock there would probably be the corner of one of the diamonds, so I just needed a little piece just to make sure I didn't get any ink on my sentiment circle. And then I just stamped it with red ink, made sure I cleaned my surface really well before moving on, and my tag was finished. I did eventually remove that little piece of post-it. Anyway, then I took the scrap that I had, the extra piece of cardstock that had the borders on it, and trimmed it down just to the border part. And since it was so narrow, I took a 2-inch wide piece of cardstock, and it was just a piece of discontinued Stampin' Up! Cardstock that I thought matched the Hint of Pesto ink really well. And I glued the white piece down, and my original idea was that I was going to do some selective inking on the ornament stamp and stamp the ornament directly onto the white cardstock. So I set everything up in my MISTI, and here I have the part that I don't want to be green masked off with a little piece of washi tape, and I ink up the stamp, and what do I do but forget to remove the piece of washi tape. So now the image is ruined, so no big deal. I went ahead and cleaned everything off and went on to plan B, which was that I used the small banner die that came in the Sidekick box. I die cut it out of red cardstock and set it aside. Then I took the Merry Christmas stamp from the stamp set and stamped it onto white cardstock. And then I used the heart die that also came with the Sidekick and die cut the sentiment. I also die cut a heart out of the green cardstock that I used for the backing. And I also die cut the tiny heart from the die set that came with the Sidekick out of red cardstock, and then I just assembled everything. So I put the red banner down first, I mounted the two hearts together and then attached them to the card, and I also have the tiny little red heart attached to the white Merry Christmas sentiment heart. Using my mini trimmer, I cut off part of the top of the tag so that there wouldn't be so much white space at the top. And then because I had already attached the hearts to the tag with dimensionals, I couldn't get it into the tag punch. So I just decided to cut the corners at an angle and just form a different shape tag. I then marked the spot where I wanted the hole to go and used my Crop-A-Dile to punch the hole. I added some thick red and white twine, and this tag is done. I decided to put my green and red inks aside for a while and make a more feminine tag. So I'm taking some Concord and Ninth glitter paper, this is white, and die cutting a couple of snowflakes from that Seasonal Layers Thinlits die set, and you will see that the Sidekick did a great job at cutting these really intricate details out. I didn't need any kind of shims or anything, everything just popped out. Now because they are detailed, the detailed dies, the cardstock, the glitter paper is kind of stuck in there, so I did have to use a paper piercer through the ejection holes, but everything just cut out beautifully. I have my tag shape cut out already, and I also have a piece of white cardstock because I think that this pink grapefruit ink isn't going to stand out enough on the Bermuda Bay cardstock, which it doesn't. So I'm going to do the to and from first so I don't have any problems later. So I'm stamping the Merry Christmas sentiment again, again in the pink grapefruit ink, and then I'm going to stamp the to and from. A small section of the T didn't stamp correctly, so I've taken a blender pen and I'm making sure that it's nice and clean. And then I'm just taking the pink grapefruit ink pad and tapping a little bit of the ink onto my glass mat, and then I'm picking up the ink with the blender pen and just filling in the part of the T that's missing. When I'm done, I just scribble on a clean piece of cardstock and it'll be ready to go for the next time. I have grabbed my MISTI that is still set up with the ornament stamp in it, and I'm putting my piece of white cardstock that's going to go on the front of my tag into the corner of the MISTI, and then I'm taking a small post-it note. I'm covering the all of the ornament except for the hanger part, and I'm using the lighter gold ink from my metallics ink set, inking up the top of the ornament, removing the post-it note, and then stamping, and I get a perfect impression. So then I'm taking my chamois, cleaning everything off really well, and then I'm going to use a piece of washi tape to cover up the top of the ornament that I've already stamped, and then ink up the ornament with the pink grapefruit ink and stamp that. To finish off the ornament, I'm taking the string stamp and stamping that with Smoky Slate, and then I will stamp the bow with the same ink. I wanted to bring a little bit of that Bermuda Bay color into the center of the tag, so I'm taking the turquoise gem ink and inking up the Joy from the stamp set and stamping it into the corner there. And then I'm just going to take some liquid glue and attach this to the front of my tag, and then attach the back panel to the back of the tag with the same glue, and then I will just add some snowflakes. I like to use Ranger Multimedia Matte to glue delicate die cuts like this to my projects because it dries completely clear, it doesn't have any sheen to it, and it also is not sticky once it's dry like the Tombow Mono Multi is. So I'm just putting a few dots onto the back of each of the snowflakes and then using my finger to kind of spread the glue around a little bit. And I had only cut 2 snowflakes and I decided I wanted one more, so I just die cut one more and then attached it to the front of the tag. And you'll notice that at this point I've already trimmed the bottom of the tag as well so that it's a little bit shorter and closer to the size of the white cardstock. Then I just added some silver and white twine, and that finishes off the tag. The last tag that I'm showing you is really simple. Once again, I have a strip of cardstock that is 2 inches wide, and I'm using the red ink to ink up the stamp that says "No Peeking." I'm going to stamp that, and then I'm going to take the Best Gift Ever stamp, ink it up with the dark green ink, and stamp that, and I'm going to overlap it over the "No Peeking" a little bit so that the two things look connected. I could have stamped the "No Peeking" on a separate piece of cardstock and punched it with a 1.5 inch punch, or die cut it with a 1.5 inch circle die, but I decided to keep this tag really simple. So then I'm just trimming it down, and then I'm going to use the same Merry Christmas stamp that I've used before and the "To and From", and then just add some twine to the tag, and that will finish it off. Very simple. This kind of tag would be great for mass producing, and I think this kind of tag on craft cardstock and simple is great for guys. Once again, part of the T was missing. It's not the stamp's fault, it's user error. So I took my Jumbo Java ink and put a little bit on the glass mat, just like I did before. Picked up a blender pen, scribbled it in the ink, and then just filled in the part of the T that was missing. I do have a couple more tags that I'm going to show you in a moment that I didn't go into the process for, but I will tell you what I did. And I hope that this has given you some ideas for some tags that you can make, whether it's really simple ones like this last one, or a little bit more involved like the Bermuda Bay one. So here's the full set of tags that I have made with this stamp set and with my Sidekick. This first one is just simply stamped, and it does have a little rhinestone in the middle. This is the one I just made, very simple, and this one's extremely simple as well, just some simple stamping. For this one, I did heat emboss the diamond pattern and added a gold foil doily. And then these are the two that I went through today. I think they're really cute and still not too hard to make. Here's the To and From that I had to improvise because I had already finished the tag. And here's the one with the Bermuda Bay colors, more feminine. I did add some Wink of Stella to the ornament. I hope that you can see it, and I hope that you can see the glitter in the snowflakes. And then these last three feature the border stamp. On this one I did heat emboss the No Peeking and added some glitter red embossing powder. And then here are the two that I made in the video. Just a little bit of dimension to make them a little bit special. And as you can see, no To and From. But anyway, so I hope that this has given you some ideas and that you get inspired to make some holiday tags of your own. Have fun. Thank you for stopping by today. For links to the products I used and still shots, please visit my blog at mariascardsandmore.com.